Numerous issues with sand drift, sand retention and sand replenishment that have arisen in recent years up and down the Yorke Peninsula. Indeed, since I started representing the community of Narungga less than 12 months ago and in the months preceding that as a candidate, I have had complaints made to me about the sand situation at North Beach near Wallaroo, Black Point, Fisherman's Bay, Balgowan, Point Turton and the Pines. Indeed, I was relayed quite a humorous story about the Pines in which one shack owner was quite appreciative of the sand drift issues that have arisen because the accumulation is happening right in front of his shack and never has the beach looked so plentiful and full of sand. That's just off the top of my head, Mr Speaker, and in addition to that, there are other communities that desperately need a boat ramp improvement. I'm loath to endorse any solution while we have the record that we do in coastal protection on the peninsula, and it is so lacklustre. Marion Bay, for example, beautiful Marion Bay, has a flawed boat ramp which makes it almost impossible to launch a boat unless you're a local with experience in the most difficult of conditions. But a solution that includes a rock groin places at risk, based on the examples that we have on the peninsula, the pristine beaches around Marion Bay, which attract so many tourists each year. North Beach is a particularly bad example of sand drift issues, where a rock groin was installed to protect the entry to the marina and is blamed for catching a great deal of sand and inundating the shacks closest to the boat ramp marina entry with sand at its front doorstep. Shacks down that end, literally without a word of exaggeration, have sand that accumulates to a height above their roof level out the front of their shacks. This makes their shacks unusable, the very reason that people buy on the beachfront is so that they can walk out their front door and onto the beach and into the water. In Fisherman Bay and Black Point, new boat ramps have impeded the natural drift of sand along the beach. And on one side there is plentiful sand, full of sand, and on the other there is a rough, rocky base that one finds if he digs deep enough beneath the surface sand. Residents of these two communities visit primarily because of the pristine beaches, and the sand drift issues we have on the peninsula put at risk those residents and visitors that patronise those towns every year. In Point Turton and Balgowan, the boat ramps are impossible to use at low tide because the ramp silts up between the rock groins that guard the ramp from the dangerous wave conditions that can impede launching a boat. Point Turton Sea Rescue have reached out to me and said that they fear that lives will be at risk when they can't get their rescue vessel out to save victims. Indeed, they relate a story about returning to the ramp, towing a stricken vessel and becoming beached at the boat ramp. Members of the Sea Rescue Squadron literally had to get out and push the sea rescue boat and the stricken vessel across the silted-up entrance to the boat ramp, and it took some 20 minutes to get both boats in and to safety. One worries that if there is an emergency call that goes out and the squadron is required to push the boat out of the boat ramp, then that 20 minutes might be the difference between life and death for those people trapped at sea in the most harrowing of circumstances. Similarly, pro-fishermen and charter fishermen in Point Turton are having issues and having their business put at risk by the boat ramp silting up. The YP Council are attempting to dredge the entry to the boat ramp currently, and a process that needs to be entered into regularly at quite an expense to the Council. I'm sure, Mr Speaker, that this process could be streamlined and made cheaper. Balgowan residents have approached me with a cheap and effective solution, and I look forward to investigating that further to try and alleviate the issues that they face at their boat ramp. There are more problems up and down the peninsula, but there is just a quick overview of some of the issues that boat ramps face on the peninsula and beaches. The YP is an extremely popular fishing destination, and Port Hughes boasts, based on my understanding, the busiest boat ramp outside of metropolitan Adelaide, and is popular with many beachgoers. I look forward to welcoming the Minister for Environment and Water down to the peninsula soon. Indeed, he has given an undertaking a visit in the short term, and working toward a solution for these problems and toward a better guardian of coastlines so that future boat ramp improvements do not impose the same problems on communities that the current situation does. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the communities at the aforementioned towns that have reached out to me and relayed their concerns. It's been a pleasure to visit all of those communities and view the problems faced by them and discuss how potential solutions might be reached at. So thank you to those communities, and I look forward to welcoming the Minister to the peninsula in due course.